different languages, it was that good. He's also the founder of Insight Marketing. He's a member of the executive team at My Firm's app, the sort of hat that I guess he's wearing today. And he's worked with one of my personal heroes, Rob Parsons, who runs the Care for the Family initiative, and David does an enormous amount there because he cares, and he really does. He's not just caring, but he's massively passionate about this profession, exactly as I am, and is determined to keep accountants in their primary role as trusted advisors. So it's no surprise that I was very keen to run a joint session with David, and now to hand over to David in 30 seconds. I know he's going to tell you more about all of that stuff. So David, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you, my friend.
Steve, thanks for the big welcome, and as always, it's a pleasure to work together. I don't know, those of you who are listening today will hear speakers talk about relationships that have gone back over decades, and I find them actually quite significant, not just in a commercial sense, but actually in a fullness of life sense. And I said to Steve the other day, I was minded of a phrase: some friendships are for a reason, some for a season, and some for a lifetime. And I think I said to Steve the other day, our relationship seems to be a seasonal thing. We cross in and out of each other's worlds commercially and personally from time to time, and there's always great value, at least for me, when our paths have crossed. And I deeply appreciate folks that have integrity, that work into our world, that from time to time can work together and hopefully produce more than the sum of the parts, as it were. So thanks, Steve, for your very warm intro, as always, and appreciated. Most of you will know My Firm's app. I'm aware a couple of you on the web event today have been speaking to my team in the past week, and they've alerted me to the fact that you're on this webinar. So a special welcome to you, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. During the session, as an AVN member or as a guest delegate on this sponsored AVN event, you're entitled at the end of our time to a totally free full-featured trial, which begins with a short telephone walkthrough. And there's one other very special arrangement which I'm going to explain right at the end. But at any time, just feel free, please, to type free trial into the question box. So today's material, as Steve suggested and requested, is 7 compelling reasons to launch your own app. And putting accountants first, it sounds awfully patronizing, unless you know what we really mean by that. This is not a mission statement. It's not a piece of marketing hyperbole. What we're actually driven by at My Firm's app is the desire to make sure that as accountants, where you've had trusted advisor status, quite rightly, by the way, for many decades, that you don't lose it. Not because of malpractice or poor performance, but that you don't lose it through disengagement. What do I mean? Well, if I want advice about my money, my tax, my business exit, my business improvement goals, my first port of call is always my accountant. But whilst we find that picture rather reassuring and, I guess, reflecting our past reality, it is just that, our past reality. So I don't mean you and I have lost it, but what I am suggesting and hoping to demonstrate is that the trusted advisor status now has to operate and to be seen to operate in a rather different way in what is quite patently a very different world. And what this means pragmatically is that trusted advisor status, if it means anything pragmatically valuable, it should mean this: that they, whoever they are, will come to us first, and come to us first through the medium that they choose. And as we're going to see, that is going to be mobile. Who are My Firm's app? I think the bulk of you will know that we produce a global software solution, more than 200,000 end users of the only compliant, approved and endorsed app that exists in the accountancy world right now. And it's trusted, it says, by nearly 800 firms. Actually, this month, we went well over 800 firms. From the biggest, a sole trader with fee billing of less than 80 grand a year, to 26 of the top 100, and of course the bulk somewhere in between. Now, of course, these 800 plus firms are now part of a global community that we nurture. What I mean by that is we are in touch with all our app clients most months, drawing from them new ideas, challenges they'd like us to solve, new concepts they'd like us to engage with the app. And I think that's an interesting, if not helpful, base from which we can begin to develop the app for the accountancy world. Now, today's content has been drawn from a whole variety of sources, and I mention that just so that you know, yes, of course, it's got our own material. We have our own analysts. We have calling teams that make over 7,000 calls to accountants every month. But the material today has been both endorsed or informed by Paul Dunn at B1G1, and Steve will mention that at the end with a new book that he and his family have produced. Mark Lloydbottom, Tony Margratelli at the ICPA, Accountancy Age, Kevin Salter, who heads up the IT faculty at ICAEW, and then just a few weeks ago from Ben Smith, the editor at Accounting Web. And I think it's helpful to know, I hope it's helpful to know, that many leading organizations and institutions have checked the app that I'm about to share with you and endorsed it, and actually some of them even promote it. Now, before we get moving, we've got 3 little polls today, and the polls are, of course, completely confidential. No one will see the answers other than the composite answer that will appear on the screen. So here comes the first poll. Would you be good enough now to answer the question on the poll: is your firm using or recommending cloud? Just tick one or other of these, and when we've got a good chunk of you that have filled it in, we'll make sure we share the overall composite of results. Just a couple more of you to fill it in. If you'd be kind enough to do that, that'd be fantastic. Okay, I'm going to close the poll there and share the results. So 81% of you using or recommending, and 10% of you no, and 10% planning in the next year or so. I can tell you, by the way, that has changed dramatically since last year. Last year, when I was asking this question, it was typically 50, maximum 60% using or recommending cloud software. So back into our material, if I may, because I think it's clear, isn't it? We are in a time of unprecedented change for the profession. And I don't know if you ever think about it like this. I did a webinar recently, the 8 things successful firms will be doing next year. And I was actually sobered when I was preparing the material. And Steve, this might interest you, because in my mind, I reflected on a couple of years in my life when the change in the commercial world I operated in was dramatic. It was significant. It was a step change, a tipping point. And it's only been a couple of years in my 40 years or so of working as a consultant. And I do believe this coming year, 2017, will be that kind of year of change. And I want to start with a lesson from Kodak, if I may. If you wanted to take a photograph a few years back, what did you and I used to reach for? If you're old enough, and Steve and I were chatting before we started about the grey hair that now appears on the barber's floor, I bet you had an old single lens reflex, beautiful piece of machinery, heavy, beautifully precision engineered, carried around in a canvas or leather bag. Mine was canvas. Steve's a bit wealthier than me. His was probably posh leather, I'm sure. And I bet one of you had Nikon, some of you would have had Canon, one or two even Pentax, and I bet even as I'm telling you the story, you can remember that pop sound when you opened your new roll of film in the little, clean, newly manufactured, pristine grey tube. That unmistakable smell, and the long wait, of course, for Kodak to post your photos. I mentioned this story, and there are several I could use, because Kodak dominated the film processing marketplace, was once responsible for 90% of film production, employed over 140,000 staff globally. But they filed for bankruptcy just a couple of years ago, and today it's all done in an instant. Grab your phone, take a picture with the help of an app, it's shared with the world, it's done. My daughter right now is having a loft conversion, and for 2 weeks, every day we get a video update taken with high resolution quality on a smartphone and posted to WhatsApp, and the entire family shares it. Now, what can we learn from this? And I think the lesson is pretty simple, isn't it? Most commentators agree that Kodak actually had digital technology for a decade, but deliberately sat on it because they didn't want it to change or challenge their way of doing things. And there's a very safe life lesson here. And I think if you took nothing else away in terms of life and business, this little quote would serve you well, as it served me well from one of my friends. A safe life principle is to engage with what will ultimately benefit your clients. Why? Because that's what they will ultimately engage with. Trusted advisor? You want to stay trusted advisor, then my encouragement is engage with what will ultimately benefit clients, because that's what they will ultimately benefit from. Now, of course, the first thing that appears on our mobile landscape is what a lot of writers these days are calling digital disruption. It's a good phrase because there is a difference between change and disruption. Most accountants, according to Mark Lloyd-Bottom, suffer from inertia when they face change. But when you're faced with disruption, you can't shrug your shoulder and say, well, Steve Pipe and AVM will sort it, or I don't need to worry about it at the moment. No, when there's disruption, it's in your face, and you have to do something. You have to respond to it. And that, of course, then produces the inevitable fight or flight, threat or opportunity emotion in us. And I think there's a very real fear from accountants I speak to that we're going to lose control because of digital technology. Other firms move from fear to doing something about it. And you can see 542's app here, bringing all the technology their clients want into a single custom app, which is their app. And as we're going to see, there are some cracking online cloud and software services out there, which I'm sure most, if not all of you, are using to a greater or lesser degree. But doesn't it make sense then, as trusted advisor, to bring all of that, the things your client really can benefit from, into your firm's customized world? So how do we maintain that trusted advisor status in a digital age? And I think the simplest answer is having an app. But let me put some substance behind a claim, because you'd expect me to say that, wouldn't you? So here is some of that substance. We live in an always on, always connected world, don't we? And the speed with which this has happened has staggered us. In a recent feature, the Economist called our world the planet of the phone. We book hotels, we do social media, we hail cabs, we do our banking on the smartphone. And the Economist put it this way. They said, look, they're ubiquitous, they're addictive, they're transformative. I'm 65, got my first pension check in August this year. I mention that not for you to feel sorry, but just to share the way my world works. I woke up this morning with the smartphone by my bed. I took the smartphone from the bedroom to the bathroom. Strange habit, possibly. It's what I do. From the bathroom to the boardroom, which is where I'm now presenting to you. Hopefully at the end of today, when my wife comes back from looking after the grandkids, we'll go out to the bar for a nice evening drink before finally retiring to bed with the phone in my hand again. I tell you that, folks, because I'm 65. And if that's me, you can guarantee that it's most of your clients. You're probably aware that we're in a post-PC world. This is one slide. I say it in 10 seconds. The implications of this are phenomenal. The back end of last year, already mobile devices overtook laptop and desktop as the primary point of work space. You can see the Gartner analytics on the left of the screen here. The shipment of mobile phones dropping, the PCs dropping, but smartphones dramatically, unstoppably, incrementally increasing. And you can see what the research director at Gartner has to say to us on the right-hand side here. It's reached 90% penetration in the mature markets. It's also where we spend our time. Now, apparently, I'm down here only 40 hours a month on a smartphone, and you good folks may be in one of these other demographic slots. But the point is, we're all using them, and we're using them for extended periods of time. And it was Paul Dunn who alerted me to what you now see on this slide. He said to me recently, he said, David, some firms think it's all about the mobile website. He said it never has been and it never will be. Now, we produce mobile websites, so I don't have an axe to grind negatively here. You have to have a mobile-enabled website to enable Google search to work properly. But look where the time is actually spent. Only 11% of time is spent through mobile web inquiries. 90% of time on smartphones and tablets is spent engaged through app usage. So where does your client turn to first, of course, is a great question. This is that trusted advisor piece, that first point of engagement piece that we mentioned just now. And you can see in May this year, for the first time, both App Annie and Ofcom report that mobile, smartphone in other words, is the first screen. And again, you can see some browsing stats there again. Now, let me take you into poll number 2, if you wouldn't mind, and this is a very simple one. Do you use a smartphone more than 5 times a day? Yes, no, or sometimes. Would you be kind enough to vote as quickly as possible, selecting one of those answers? A couple more of you just to vote, if you would, so we've got a decent composite result. Fantastic. Okay, let me close that poll and let me share those results. And you probably guessed this was going to happen. But if I tell you even this slide last year would have only been 60% of accountants saying, I use a smartphone more than 5 times a day. Brilliant. Well, let's catch up with our material and let's move on. Digital disruption then, it's already happened. World's largest taxi company owns no taxis. Most popular media owner creates no content. Largest software vendors don't write the apps, and you can see our world reflected in everyday activity that you and your family no doubt participate in. Now, what's interesting is that for years, and Steve will validate this because he and I have talked about this in a different context some years back, but for years, accountants have done all they can, quite rightly, to protect their customers. And of course you should. They're the very lifeblood of your firm, aren't they? And for most firms today, you've grown by word of mouth. You've had AVN help and programs to get you good referrals, and you've done good work, essential work for many business owners who, by and large, have been appreciative of it. And because the firm has thus far been able to lead the client relationship, that is, until now. Now, for the first time ever, the advent of mobile devices and all that they've opened the door to as individuals create a choice for firms. If you don't launch an app, as you're going to see momentarily, you will put your client base at risk. There are some predatory players out there who are intent in getting the home screen of your clients and your clients' world. Now, some firms perceive a threat here. And in that threat, and in that process, client's control is being given away. What do I mean by that? Well, I went to the Tower of London with some American friends. We went into the Crown Jewels, and I was staggered by the size of the vault-like doors and the soldiers with their semi-automatic rifles that were guarding these Crown Jewels. Why? Because it's the most valuable thing in the place, and the most valuable thing in your place needs to have at least a similar attitude towards guarding, because isn't it the case that software vendors, support services, and even tax authorities, if we're not careful, are being given access to our clients? How? Because they want access to your client's smartphone and tablet home screen. That's what they want. And doesn't it make sense, by the way, that we could find a way where we had the control of our client's smartphone or tablet's home screen? Here you can see the big software vendors, the big software providers are going direct. They're going direct to your clients. I've taken these straight off the web. These are TV ads aimed at SME business owners. In other words, your clients and mine. And of course, HMRC, with making tax digital, are also going to try and get our clients direct. They're trying to reach our clients and actually quite overtly talking about bypassing the accountant, the trusted advisor in the process. And of course, this produces confusion. I actually saw one Australian company, which is a good firm, good accountancy firm, offering the Australian tax office's own app on their accountancy firm's website. This is madness. This is actually promoting disengagement. I don't think Verve Group had any idea what they were doing when they put the ATO app on their website. And of course, it's not just the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, that's offering their own app. Our own HMRC, you can go straight online after this webinar and see what they're offering your clients, and the same is true in the States. However, I want you to note what your reaction is as I read this, because I'm going to ask you to tell me what your reaction is, and I want you to think about the statement on the phone that's come from Xero. As I mentioned before, says Gary, the Xero app is high usage with customers using it multiple times per week. The front screen of any mobile device, he says, is prime time real estate and a great place to be seen. Now, when he says, as I mentioned before, the Xero app is high usage with customers using it multiple times per week, he is talking about your customers. And he is making no secret of the fact that Xero want to get the front screen of every mobile device they possibly can. Why? Because it's prime time real estate and they want to be seen there. I would like to know what your reaction is to that statement. Would you tell me, please? Hit the question tab, type in your reaction, what you feel right now as I've shared that with you. Would you be good enough to do that right away for me, please? Couple more, just type in there if you would, please. I just would like to know what your response as we went through that fact actually is. There's one here I can't repeat. Sorry, Ethan. Ross says we should want to be on the front screen. I can't repeat Ethan's. Not pleased, says Alan, and I'm sure the rest of you are feeling very similar. Now, that's one area where if we can get control of our client's home screen, we make sure we protect our clients from a very different world, a world where HMRC is actually predatorily trying to get direct access to your clients and offering them an app as one way to do it, and where the software companies, and by the way, I'm not slagging off the software companies, there's some great companies out there, but what I really want us to do is to be able to allow our client to engage with what will benefit them, but without disengaging from us as their trusted advisor. I think you get the point. Now, for others, their clients have started telling the accountant that digital is getting messy. And what they mean by that is very simple. It's not complex. It's to do with integration and connectivity. And your clients, if you sit down and ask them, will tell you that they have multiple logins to multiple apps and software solutions on multiple devices, and they find this vexing. And if you could solve this for them, you really would serve your clients well. So if you could move from this, multiple apps, multiple logins, multiple devices, to this, where on your custom app, you provide a single and simple solution for every one of your clients. Ben Smith saw this, and he wrote into my team, actually was very complimentary, and he hasn't always been of some of my work. But Ben said, look, MFA deals with the importance of one single interface for clients, having your own brand that they press on all the time. Digital is getting messy. That's his description. Anchor your firm in the center ground. And the way it works is when you have a custom app, you see peaks here. All these solutions that you want, and there are hundreds I can't show you. The choice is almost limitless. Whatever solutions you want embedded into your custom app, let's say it's Xero, even though Ethan's really upset with Gary, he might still want his clients to use Xero, but let's say Ethan's a bit fed up with Xero and he wants to use QuickBooks. Well, no problem. We can even put access to HMRC. We've begun to cover the Making Tax Digital headache, free agent, MYOB, receipt bank, and the like. So all these things that your clients want, and you probably want your clients to benefit from, all in your app, your custom branding. And you can see a very simple example here. So in themes, you can see MYOB, you can see Recon, Virtual Cabinet, Zero, and so it goes on. So the question then is, how does all this actually give you the engagement I'm talking about? This engagement, by the way, is most definitely for marketing, business growth, business development, but really importantly, folks, and I want you to catch both, it's for operational efficiencies. It's for your practice management, not in the sense of some piece of software, but in the sense of what it enables you to do. One of the things at the heart then of why the app works so well, both in terms of marketing and operations, I think is truly game-changing. I don't think you will have ever seen anything like this, I suspect, in your business development function and quite possibly in your operational efficiencies. It's push notification. Now, push notification is where somebody gets a push on their phone, comes in a little box like this, and you've either got to read it now or close, and self-evidently you've got to use this appropriately. But it was Tony Margaritelli from the ICPA who rang my team up and said to my team, guys, you have no idea how important push notifications are. So, of course, we're intrigued. He says, look, if I use them in the ICPA, I get an 80% better response than if I use emails to my ICPA members. And we began to test it. Now, we couldn't match his results, but we could consistently, unequivocally state that a push notification gets a 5 times better response than email and an 80% higher open rate than email. And I think the reasons are obvious. It's singular, it's instantaneous, it's irresistible. You have to do something with it. So compared to email, push notifications knock it out of the park, according to this researcher here. Now, at my firm's app, what we've been able to do is to develop 2 new optional modules. One is called Segmented Push, and Segmented Push does the following, and I want to slow down because I would really like you to catch this. I'd like you to fully understand it. So when you get a custom app, we'll give you all the help you need to promote it, and typically for most ABN members, delegates on this ABN event, you'll find that somewhere between 200 and 1,000 people will download your app, depending on your size, depending on what you do. Segmented Push, as we call it, now gives you all of the app users' names, emails, and telephone details. You can now group those users, and you can send specific push notifications to different groups. You might have clients and non-clients. That would be an obvious one. You might have tax clients. You might have top 100 clients, or if you're smaller, your top 20 clients. It might be sector-specific clients, manufacturing, IT, rural community. You can have up to 10 of these groups in the control panel that you have access to on your app. You can also select individuals and send an individual push notification. For example, you might have Virtual Cabinet, and you might simply send me a push notification saying, David, your document is still awaiting sign-off. Please get it back to me today. Now, what this means, and this is an almost unheard of opportunity for the marketing dimension of our practice management, because you now have a new source of highly valuable interactive client and prospect data. And what I mean by new sources, you have a source of proactive and interactive clients and potential clients. Why? Because they downloaded your app. You can use that data. So you could use it for push, send it to individuals, to selected groups. You might use it to promote events or deadline reminders. Document X needs to be into us by Y. Document portals such as Open Space, Virtual Cabinet, Document X is awaiting sign-off. But because this data is usable in multiple forms, you can use this data with a reason to link to any marketing or future marketing. What do I mean when I say with a reason? Well, you can send automated emails, you can automate text messages, you can carry out personal follow-up calls on the telephone or Skype, you can send direct mail. The reason is you've got a sensible engagement point to say, I noticed you downloaded the app yesterday, and then straight into your message, email, SMS, telephone, or direct mail. But better yet, we've made this as simple as you can possibly imagine. Up until last month, if you were My Firm's app client, you had to get into the control panel to send push. Not complex, but for some accountants, time-stretched, time-critical factors in life mean they wanted an easier solution. So now what we've done is this. You simply use your normal email platform, send your clients or potential clients an email, and all you have to do in the CC box is put push at myfirmsapp.com. Your client gets their email in the normal way, but they also get automatically, you do nothing, a push notification, which relates to the email subject line. So this new CC, push at My Firm's app, can be sent to individuals, used on bulk emails. Recipients get the email in the normal way, and those who have the app get an individual push notification. And because it's as easy as using CC, anybody on the team can use it. Because it's easy and instant to use, you and your team will use it more. So all that means the well-documented power of push that Tony Margratelli from the ICPA alerted us all to is put to work as often as you want with zero extra work, no extra time from you. You're just simply using the normal email process. Now, we also have an all-new optional advanced marketing module. And this is where we've automated it for you because some, I know, are so time-strapped, you just want it sorted. And this is as close to tailored, sorted as we can do at the moment. And the way it works is this. When a user, client or potential client, downloads your app, they get a welcome push notification from you. We sort it. It's pre-scheduled and it's automated. They also get a second push 1 month later. And then they get 12 automated push notifications that are pre-agreed, pre-written by us, and then pre-scheduled for you. So it's done automatically. Very simply, it means even if you get ultra busy, new users get a one-to-one personalized push, a follow-up push notification 1 month later, and all users get a minimum of 12 notifications in the year. So that's the segmentation model and the advanced marketing module. Now, why is this mission critical, whatever your size? I think it's true to say, and again, you'd expect me to say this, I understand that. But we actually passionately believe that if you want to stay engaged as the trusted advisor, you have a choice. You do this, you stand a chance of winning. Don't do this, then the engagement, the connected piece is inevitably going to be lost. And with over 800 firms already having launched their app, 30 to 40 new firms every month, we want to encourage you to think about it sooner rather than later. And for that reason, I have a very special offer just for today's AVN members and guest delegates, which I'll come to in just a moment. As I take you into that special offer for AVN members and today's delegates, here are the things that your clients and potential clients will use the most. People say, okay, I get what the app does for us. What does it do for our clients? Well, I don't have anywhere near enough time to cover this. So I'll give you some great things, I hope, but that's why we've offered the totally free full feature trial at the end of this webinar. One of my guys will chat you through 10 minutes how to download it, what the key things are, what to look for, how to play with it, and so on. 17 calculators, tax tables, key dates, UK budget pack updated in real time last week, for instance, for the autumn statement, the mileage tracker, the photo expense receipt tool, push notifications, all kinds of things about your firm. So let me take you through just a couple in the time I have, and then encourage you to get a full feature trial where you can play around with this yourself in your own time. Share it with colleagues, maybe even share it with a few clients. Try it for yourself. So here's the mileage tracker. It's no more complex than click on the mileage tracker icon, start the trip, finish the trip, enter any notes you want, and it's now ready for export. You can export it immediately. You can just save it to the device and export it every fortnight, every month, whenever you want. The same is true of expense management. Photo expense receipt tool, click on the receipt management icon. If you have Receipt Bank, we have full integration with Receipt Bank, so you would just click on that. Let's assume for today's example you don't. So we click on Photograph a Receipt. It then asks you to allocate it. Really attractive drop-down menu of ledger options. You take the photograph, or your client does. They're given the option to save or not, and then they can put a few notes on if they want, name of the receipt. Then they can check the amount and the VAT. There are 17 calculators. I'll give you the most common one for our webinar, and that is dividend versus salary. So you type in the profit, and then it tells you the options, whether you take it as dividend versus basic salary, or if you take it as a sole trader. It's so good. And by the way, all these tables, somebody asked me, what does compliant mean? It means the tax tables are compliant with the professional body. So all this has been approved by ICAEW, ACCA, ICAS, and the like. And then, of course, at the end it says, let's talk. Don't just take what the table's giving you or the calculator's giving you, let's chat. And your clients and potential clients can use the Get in Touch icon. One of my favorite stories, the smallest app client we have, turnover of less than 80,000 fee billing a year. They've got the app, as you're going to get the opportunity in just a moment. And one of the features of the app is what's called SD. It stands for smartphone detection. And basically, it's pretty much what it says on the can. Little piece of invisible code that's embedded into the website. No one sees it. But if anybody browses your website using a smartphone, it pops up with a little dialog box that says, hi there, thanks for visiting our website using your mobile. Would you like to download the app? Here you can see Russell Payne, who has got his Iris, Xero, Cashflow, and QuickBooks icons, engaging with what will benefit the clients, because that's what they will ultimately engage with. And what would the login or the icon then do on your app? Whichever ones you choose, you get to tailor the ones you want. It would simply say, welcome to Xero, for instance, email address, password, and login. The system also allows you to track what your clients and potential clients are doing. So you can see here, this particular firm had 2,000 iOS downloads, 798 Android downloads. And it shows you what they're visiting most, what the visits are per week, and what pages they're using the most. So what we're describing here then, as an AVN member or as a delegate on today's event, imagine having your very own app in your branding and design available in both the Apple and Android stores. And that's customized. Here's a few examples. Here's Harlan's, here's De Vere's, here's Solomon's, here's Fuchs & Co., here's Farnell and Clark, here's G, here's Clear Sky. So a custom app that carries your branding, even down to the individual icons. They're all done in your colors, your branding, all done for you, so that you get the home screen of your client and potential client's smartphone or tablet. How do you launch an app then? What's involved? Do you know what? It is so simple. Basically, you say yes, please, to one of my team. We produce the design elements. We build the app. We launch it for you through Apple and Android, and we help you promote it with a whole range of templates and available solutions that are proven. Alan Wilson said to us, and he actually recorded it on a video for us, he said the process for setting up the app was incredibly easy. For a time-poor director like myself, the whole process was taken out of my hands, so with minimal input, we were able to get it up and running rather quickly. So I'm about to hand back to Steve. If you feel you've heard enough and want to go ahead, you can get your firm's custom app up and running on the Apple and Android store in somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks. Does it take a lot of your time? I'm often asked. The honest truth is no. If you budgeted a total of 1 hour to help my team approve the designs, the choosing of the icons and so on. That's probably as much as it will need from you. Now the base price, and by the way, I know one or two of you have been speaking to Tony Rackham or to Dan Richards or Richard Lionel, and if they've been talking to you, this offer will actually apply to you today, by the way. Base price is £319 per month with segmented push and the advanced marketing module thrown in. Now, if you'd like to go ahead today, you benefit from a massive saving, just as an AVN member or guest delegate today, and that saving is 15%. That's a saving of just under £600 in total over a 2-year period. So if you'd like to take advantage of that special offer, just type yes please in the question box, and for that price you get your app customized up on the App and Android store with all your icons, everything you want in that app that's available to you within 6 to 8 weeks. If you'd like more information, and you're aware that I haven't possibly been able to take you through all the things that an app could do, my suggestion then is, if you're not actually ready to go ahead, I'm hoping you are, but if you're not, you'd benefit from this AVN offer to you today, which is a totally free, full-featured trial of the app. You get a full working version of the app. One of my team will talk through the app on the telephone. We allow up to 20 minutes. 10 minutes might be enough. We'll explain how to download it if you have a problem. We'll show you the main tools. We'll show you how the tools get used, show you how it can be customized, give you access to a video from 30 or so UK firms, including a couple of AVN members that have used the app to generate new business. You can have that video, of course. Practical examples of how this will work perfectly now for your firm and with your current system. So, can I encourage you then to use the question box, please, either to take advantage of the 15% offer, which is there for AVN members and delegates on today's event. Just type yes please, if you would, into the question box. Or if you'd like a full featured trial, which starts with a short telephone walkthrough, just type free trial into the question panel. Steve, let me hand over to you.
David, that was absolutely awesome. I literally can't understand why anybody wouldn't do one of those two things that you just suggested. Let me go back actually and pick up something that you mentioned right near the very beginning. You talked about the demise of Kodak. I don't know whether you know, and very few people on the call will know, that I was actually the head of finance for a 140 million turnover division of Kodak. They were headquartered in Hemel Hempstead. They had this massive building, and I was recruited from KPMG to head up the finance function. And the division was the consumer imaging division, known as the CID. And the CID was responsible for selling those yellow films. So I have an incredible inside track insight into the demise of that business. I wasn't there when that was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It survived for a while after that, for sure, and it definitely wasn't my fault that it went bust. But I can tell you what was the problem. This is the sobering message, which is why absolutely everybody watching this and everybody in the profession needs to sit up and take notice of what you've been talking about. As the head of finance on the inside of Kodak, they saw those yellow films pretty much as a cash cow. They were hugely profitable at the time, and as you say, they sat on the new technology. They didn't feel they needed to do anything about it, and complacency was everywhere. And because of their refusal to change, because of their refusal to adapt to the new reality, to give the customers what the customers really wanted and needed, which was an even better technology solution than the one that was the cash cow for Kodak, in due course, that business completely disappeared. One of the most famous brands in the history of capitalism. Kodak moment, it was much the same as to hoover the carpet. The brand name had become a verb pretty much. Now, if the strongest brand in the world at the time can fail because it failed to address new technological challenges, how much more is that likely to be true for the accounting profession? So I absolutely support the analysis you did earlier on about the need for us to wake up to new technology. Having seen your technological solution and the coherency of the case for using it, it's a complete and absolute no-brainer for everybody to do one of those two things, isn't it? I'm massively impressed, David.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve, so much. Folks, thank you so much for engaging with the polls and the questions. I really appreciate it. A good stack of you have typed in free trial, go ahead, and other stuff in the question box. That's it from Steve and me. I will leave the question dialog box open for the next couple of minutes. So if you missed it and would like the free trial or would like to check the special offer for the app for today's delegates and AVN members, please just type it into the question box. A few more of you are doing it right now, I see. So if you'd be good enough to do that, that would be great. Steve, thanks so much for hosting this. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this. Please do use the question box, which I'll leave open now for a couple of minutes, and look forward to being together in another setting very soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, David, too.